The Tamil Tigers are being blamed for 2 bomb blasts in Sri Lanka's capital, killing at least 18 people and injuring scores more. 17 died when a parcel bomb exploded outside a busy department store in Colombo. Earlier, a suicide bomber blew herself up outside the office of a Tamil minister, killing his secretary. Shireen Tadros has our report.
The explosion happened outside this busy clothes shop. A parcel bomb set off the blast, causing a nearby bus to catch fire at peak rush hour. Several people have been reported dead. The military have blamed the Tamil Tigers. Earlier in the day, another bomb struck in the very heart of the capital, Colombo. It's thought a female suicide bomber sent by the Tamil Tigers was responsible. She killed herself along with a government worker at the Ministry of Social Services.
I heard an explosion in the morning. Debris fell on my roof. Then I heard people shouting and saw injured people being taken away.
The attack took place outside the offices of Douglas Devananda, the Sri Lankan Minister of Social Services and leader of an ethnic Tamil party considered a rival to the separatist Tamil Tiger group. It's not the first time Devananda has escaped an assassination attempt. His party joined the political mainstream in 1987, renouncing violence and effectively cutting ties with the Tigers. The violence comes just a day after the leader of the Tamil Tigers made his annual address, saying there would be no end to the civil war with the government.
Warriors who have bowed or paid heed to the enemy's cause, the fallen ones, are still with us and protecting us as would a fort and castle. They have sacrificed for their struggle and their achievements towards the freedom of our nation and our cause.
Tit-for-tat violence between the Sri Lankan government and the Tamil Tigers has intensified in recent months. 9 people died when a Tamil radio station was targeted on Tuesday, the government trying to destroy the group's very mouthpiece, while the Tamils vow to fight not just the state, but all those they see as rivals. Shireen Tadros, Al-Jazeera.
To Lebanon now, where the country's army chief has emerged as a likely candidate for the presidency. Politicians from both the Western Ba'ath majority and the Hezbollah-led opposition appear to be working hard to reach consensus on General Michel Suleiman. The country has been left in a political vacuum since outgoing President Amir Lahoud left office last week. However, as our correspondent in Beirut, Rula Amin, explains, there are still obstacles in the way.
He has been seen as the right man now. Before, only Hezbollah and the opposition saw him fit to be the next president. March 14th politicians were, to them, he was not an acceptable candidate. However, today, one March 14th source told us to avoid vacuum, to avoid more deterioration in the security situation, and to make sure that this country, Lebanon, is not rocked by regional storms, as he puts it. They are willing to accept Michel Suleiman as a candidate. However, the constitution has to be changed because according to this constitution, the Lebanese constitution, a senior servant, a public servant, is not allowed to run for the presidency post. And this constitution needs to be amended before Suleiman can be the next president. And this is not something easy because the law experts we spoke to said it's a very fishy way. However, other politicians told us because of the dangerous situation in Lebanon, probably most politicians will be willing to put a blind eye to certain ways to go around the constitution.
Israel and Palestinian leaders are taking part in the first round of formal negotiations at the White House following landmark talks in Annapolis. But even as the hard work gets underway, there's been a stark reminder of the violent reality of life in Gaza. An Israeli airstrike has killed 2 Hamas fighters in the south of the Strip. The strike is reported to have targeted members of Hamas's executive force. That's a paramilitary group that has policed Gaza since Hamas seized control in June. Hamas, of course, not invited to the talks in the United States. Rounding up events in Annapolis, here's John Terrace.
For the longest time, we've heard it. What happens on the day after Annapolis? Now it is the day after Annapolis. Time to knuckle down and negotiate a possible peace settlement. Here in Washington, the focus shifts back to the White House. President Bush meets separately with Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas and Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. Then, in a late change of plan, they all get together in the Oval Office for 3-way talks. Mr. Bush will make a statement on Annapolis afterwards from the Rose Garden of the White House. At Annapolis itself, U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice closed the event, saying the road ahead could be difficult but not impossible.
Although the focus of today's conference was, of course, on the Israeli-Palestinian peace, there was a discussion of steps that could lead to a comprehensive peace, including comments by the Syrian and Lebanese representatives.
It's been revealed that only an 11th-hour intervention by the Secretary of State and President Bush saved the conference amid a stalemate between Israeli and Palestinian delegations over a joint declaration on the way forward. That declaration sets the goal of concluding an agreement by the end of next year, though there's no timetable for establishing a Palestinian state. It also gives the US a powerful role in monitoring progress towards peace in the Middle East.
The United States will monitor and judge the fulfillment of the commitment of both sides of the roadmap. Unless otherwise agreed by the parties, implementation of the future peace treaty will be subject to the implementation of the roadmap as judged by the United States.
That led to anger at Annapolis among some in the Palestinian delegation.
This is something new. And now we can count on the U.S. on behalf of the quartet to tell you if we are, as Palestinians, are carrying out our obligations, or if we don't. Because if it's my word against any Israeli in the Congress and the Senate, I don't stand a chance. I don't stand a chance. Israel is part of America's political life.
President Bush spent just 3 hours in Annapolis before heading back to the White House, where today he'll make it clear to Mahmoud Abbas and Ehud Olmert that though they can call any time, it's up to the two of them now to push the peace process forward. John Terrett, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Palestinian police have clashed with protesters at the funeral of a man killed during a protest against the Annapolis conference. Thousands of people took to the streets in the West Bank town of Hebron. Police fired guns into the air and beat people with sticks to disperse the gathering. Medical staff say 5 people were injured. The French President, Nicolas Sarkozy, is vowing to get tough on demonstrators who've brought violence to the streets of Paris. At least 120 police have been injured since trouble started on Sunday. Authorities have struggled to contain the unrest, which has spread from the suburb of Villiers-de-Bel. And as Alan Fisher reports, President Sarkozy is now getting directly involved.
This is a place on edge, wondering what the night will bring. The damage caused by the violence which has hit the Paris suburb of Villiers-le-Bel is very obvious. 3 nights in a row there's been clashes between police and protesters, although last night a massive police presence saw the level of violence drop significantly. One local told Al Jazeera it's been a terrifying experience.
The street burning, car burning, shop burning, everything's burning. It's like a first war.
French President Nicolas Sarkozy arrived back from a state visit to China and took control of the situation. First thing was to visit police injured in rioting. He was a hardline interior minister who once called rioters scum. Now he's pledging support for the officers.
What has happened is absolutely unacceptable and won't be accepted. Those who take the responsibility to shoot at civil servants will be brought to account before justice. It has a name. It is called an attempted assassination.
The violence erupted following the deaths of 2 teenagers in the suburb north of Paris. They died when their motorbike hit a police car. Like many Paris suburbs, the residents here are largely of African and Arab origin. Over the last few years, they've claimed to be alienated and excluded, and flashpoints are never far away. One leading academic who's done a lot of work in the suburbs says improvements are being made, but not quickly enough.
Of course, there is 42 billion euros planned for the next 5 years, and already 32 billion euros have been are on the paper, are ready to be spent. But it's going to take 5 years.
The events of the last few days and what happens next are a significant test for Nicolas Sarkozy. When he took over, he said he would be a president for all of France. The people here are watching very closely to see if he really means it. Alan Fisher, Al Jazeera, Villiers-le-Bel, Paris.
US-led coalition airstrikes have killed 14 local road workers in eastern Afghanistan. Afghan officials said the attack in Nuristan province was the result of mistaken intelligence. NATO's International Security Assistance Force says it carried out airstrikes against Taliban fighters in the area, but didn't say when. Afghan President Hamid Karzai has pleaded repeatedly with NATO and coalition troops to cooperate closely with their Afghan counterparts to prevent civilian deaths. An agreement on the future status of Kosovo is proving as elusive as ever. Talks have ended in the Austrian capital Vienna with no agreement.